Welcome everyone, I'm Gabriel and this video is, as the title suggests, a review for the Banner Saga. A game that I played several months ago, decided to actually review it with a little bit of a time gap between me who ended the game and me who reviews the game, which I think sometimes is a good thing to do. You might ask why I am reviewing a game that is actually a little bit old, because already second part of this game, a sequel was already published, and the third one is, as far as I know, in development. Well, that's because unlike many people who found Banner Saga entertaining, I certainly, well, I did find it entertaining, but it didn't hook me enough to continue playing the sequels to this game. And in this review, I'm going to tell you why. Like most of my reviews, this one is also structured in such a way that first I'm going to cover the story, which will cover narrative and the storyline of the game as well as characters. Then we will have presentation, which covers obviously the graphics and most certainly the music and the sound design. And the third segment, which I call the interactive or gameplay segment, I try to talk about the systems that actually power the game itself. My biggest problem with Banner Saga is the third one, but on that a little bit later. Now the story. In the story of Banner Saga, we follow a series of characters who interact with each other during the events of the storyline. Basically, the game is very much based on mythos from northern folk tales, which actually is quite a reoccurring theme in today's world. But this is a nice place. Whoever played Skyrim, whoever played most of the titles and games that are in this are inspired by this mythos, you will find yourself very well at home. The biggest drawback of this of the storyline of this game is the fact that as much as diverse it tries to be, because this is a Kickstarter project, most of the things here, most of the storyline here is being told through text. And that's obviously a little bit more of a problem. Well, it's not really a problem, but this is mostly a thing that is a limitation because of the budget. What I found the most disturbing with this is the fact that in today's era, where we as players are very much, we are lazy. We are lazy, we want games to talk to us, we want games to show us. And when this game requires you to read a lot, this is not necessarily everyone's cup of tea. I certainly found myself having problems with sometimes reading the stuff. And now that's the biggest problem. Because I played the game in Polish language version, which is my native, I saw a lot of what I would call basically translational errors or mistakes of interpretation by the translators. I don't know why this actually happened. Certainly the English language version has less of this, or even none. So it's a thing that bothers me sometimes. What else is their problem for me in this game is that as much as the story has a gravitas, as I call it, which means, it's not a fairy tale. It's a storyline. It's events that have some problems. One thing is actually certain: the characters, as much as I liked them, I don't even now today I can't even recall the name of the main protagonist, which shows how little is left after I played this game in my memory. What that means? That means that this is not a game for everyone. And as much as I liked the characters when I was playing the game, it never actually emotionally kind of hit me. You know what I mean? I hope you know, which is kind of a letdown, because when you play a game, you don't want that. You want the game's storyline to stick with you. You want those characters to remain in your head. and have fond memories of playing the game. Experience in Banner Saga was a little bit lacking in that department, and that is why the story, the narrative isn't exactly the strong suit for this game, as much as for example, decision making that you do in this in Banner Saga is there, and I'm quite sure that after one playthrough I haven't seen every possible outcome of side storylines, if I would call it that way. Presentation in this game is a little bit on an interesting part. The game is very interesting when it comes to what it tries to present. It shows very visibly that it knows what it tries to do. But at the same time, because it's quite static, cutscenes are also quite static, the art style is static. With the pacing of the music, with the pacing of the cutscenes, and with the fact that the game is told through text, that makes sense, but this is not the type of presentation that many people will enjoy. I certainly went with it, but I never actually found it to be very, how to call it, to be very entertaining. Besides that, the game will run basically on any system, any modern system when it comes to consoles, when it comes to computers, so it is technically it's not something that is in any way a limitation. The experience will be basically the same whether you play it on a 5-year-old computer, 2-year-old computer, or any of the consoles. The control schemes are fine. Basically there are no control schemes, and that's why I'll jump to the interactive entertainment segment of this review. The thing with controls is that they are pretty basic. You actually only see your caravan moving from left to right. You read and point out what you want to say, or what you want your character to say. And the camera angles shift a little bit here and there, but it is quite static, as I said in the previous segment. The thing is, when it comes to combat, the controls are very intuitive, which is quite okay. You basically move your characters from point to point and try to be as tactical as you can get. Now, the thing with the combat system that I found a little bit annoying, I would say, is the fact that it is a type of chess play where, unfortunately, the life of your character and the force of his attacks is the same. So I do understand how that is supposed to work, but I found it very confusing at the very beginning of my playthrough. I lowered the difficulty setting at some point and never actually pushed it back, because this game can be challenging, and if you are into these types of 2D strategy games, you find yourself at home. When it comes to, I don't know how to put this all together in one sentence, but the systems in this game certainly seems a little bit lacking when it comes to how the UI works, how the game actually performs. The thing is, whether you will play the Banner Saga 2 or you will try your luck with Banner Saga 3, I'm quite sure these games might have a more sophisticated and more polished version of the system, which I hope is true. The thing with that you might find problematic is the pacing. The pacing of combat is also very dull, and as much as I understand how this this game has this kind of feel, it isn't exactly everyone's dream to play with such pacing. In the verdict, it is kind of difficult to assess this game, to value this game, without reminding myself that this is a production that was created by by a small team of people who are actually scattered around the world, aren't exactly working in one place, as far as I understand it. It's very good that they were able to present this game, to sell this game, and at some point to move forward with this. But there's one thing I found quite disturbing when it comes to the business model of this game. Banner Saga was a Kickstarter project, which means it was published with the money people gave for the development of this game. At the same time, it didn't actually make enough profit to allow the second installment of the game to be a sequel. They needed another Kickstarter gathering campaign to get the second game working. The same goes with the third one. Some time ago, I do know that they were gathering money for the third, which is kind of a... it's not a problem, but it's something I fear, because with Banner Saga it worked. You know, people did pay the money, people get their games, and are actually most of the time satisfied. But the problem is many Kickstarter projects don't deliver like that. There are countless situations where this ended up not as good, and this is something that should never happen. I fear that this might turn into something that we would call typical. And maybe because I'm not really that big of a fan of Kickstarters and don't actually follow the games so deeply, the games funded with crowdfunding, maybe there is more of these types of frauds, actually, because that's how we're supposed to call it. Banner Saga, if anyone asks me for a kind of evaluation, this is a 70% game, 75 maybe. Not really something I would recommend unless you are really into strategy, turn-based combat, because this game has a system, and the series has a system that might work really well with this, but in this game I certainly found it not as good as it could be. Thank you for watching. Hope this review was something you found interesting, and hope to see you soon in the next video. Ciao.